My name is Paul Natraj, and this is a little short video with an activity to give you a little taster of what type of work you might be expected to do if you were on a creative media production course here at Craven College. So this little video is about filmmaking essentially, and we're just going to do a little activity which is about selecting and practicing the correct shot sizes for when you make films. So filmmaking is a language essentially, and we put together different types of shots in sequence in order to create stories using visual language. And in order to do that, we've got different types of shots which essentially kind of work as words in a sentence. So the first one of these is what you call an establishing shot. An establishing shot is something where you show the audience where the action is about to happen. So let's take Coronation Street as an example. On Coronation Street, the opening sequence of Coronation Street shows the back alleys and the streets and the places where the action is going to take place. This is an establishing shot, and it gives the audience a sense of place before the action starts. Then we have what's called an extreme long shot. This shows the character far away in the distance and is our first introduction to the character. Then we have the long shot, and in the long shot we usually find that the character is seen in their complete body, so from the bottom of the feet all the way up to the head, and the feet and the head are both in shot. Then we have what's called a medium long shot, and a medium long shot usually starts at about the hip area or just below the waist and goes up to the top of the head. With all these shots, what you're trying to do is to always have some headroom in the shot, which means a little bit of space between the top of the person's head and the top of the frame. This allows you to not cut the head off, which is also always a good thing, and also allows you to keep your eye lines in the right position. And the reason why this is important, and you try and keep the eye lines on the top third of the screen, is because when you cut from shot to shot, that means that the eye lines will stay the same, and you won't get a jarring edit, and you won't get the kind of feeling that you're moving somewhere where you shouldn't be. So the eye lines will always match. So that's medium long, which is from the hip to the top of the head. Then we have a mid shot, which is taken from the waist to the top of the head, and this is the type of shot that we see the most on television. So things like the news, for example, are all shot with a mid shot. It's not a threatening shot, but it allows us to kind of get a little bit closer to the character without intruding on their space. Then we get the medium close-up, and the medium close-up is what I'm shooting this in now, which is head and shoulders, and the top of the head obviously in the correct position, with a little bit of headroom at the top and the eye lines on the top third again. Then we get the close-up, and the close-up is used in film in order to show emotion or to bring us that little bit closer to the character. Close-up's a really important shot for those times in a film when we get conflict or conflict resolution, or someone's going through something particularly emotional or terrible, and then we get close to that character in a way that we couldn't normally do if in real life essentially. So the close-up's a really important shot for times in a character's life where things are maybe a bit trickier, or we need to kind of get close to see what their reaction to something might be. Then we have what's called an insert close-up, and an insert close-up is a shot of a thing. So it could be someone's mobile phone if they've just got a call, for example, and they pick up the mobile phone, and you will then see a close-up of that mobile phone, so we're seeing the information that the character's seeing at the same time. This can also be used for in action films with people who are about to pull out a weapon, let's say, or something like that. So an insert close-up is about showing an object which is important to the continuation of the story or to the character's plot development. Then we have a big close-up, which is really tight and shows a lot of the character's face, and again portraying a little bit more emotion or getting us that bit closer to the character. And we also have extreme close-ups which show different parts of the body. So a really good example of this is Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock, and there's a murder that takes place in a shower, and Hitchcock uses the extreme close-up of the eye in order to show us something a bit odd has gone on, essentially. So the extreme close-up is usually used to really take us to an unreal place with the character, but and to show us something that might be a bit odd. Then we have the shot reverse shot. Now this can use any shot size really, but essentially it's used for conversations, and you'll see this all the time in every type of drama that you might see, where you've got one character on one side having a conversation with somebody on the other side, and the shot reverse shot shows them having the conversation but on opposite sides of the screen. And then we have angles, and angles portray a great deal of meaning in filmmaking. The first one is a high angle, where you put the camera up above the character and you're looking down on them. This gives that character a feeling of powerlessness, a feeling of smallness, a feeling of being weak or vulnerable. So this is used quite a lot during fight scenes, and I'll explain that a little bit more with the other angle, which is the low angle. This is where you put the camera below the character, and that makes the character look big and imposing and powerful. This is also called the hero angle, and what you'll tend to find in a lot of superhero films is that they're always shot from just below, which gives them this feeling of strength and an imposing kind of character over the top of somebody else. And this is the reason why these two angles, the high angle and the low angle, are used quite a lot in fight sequences, because what you tend to find is the person who's on top in the fight is shot from a low angle, making them feel big, and the person who's losing in the fight is shot from a high angle, making them feel small, like they're going to be beaten. And you can see this in many different films. In fact, the majority use high angles and low angles. And the last one, which is kind of useful in order again to portray emotion, is the canted angle, and this is where we move the camera to a 45-degree angle or something of that sort, and we put the character in a funny diagonal across the screen. And this canted angle is used quite a lot when the character's going through some kind of emotional turmoil, or things just aren't quite right, and the filmmaker can use the canted angle to show this problem that's about to happen. So let's say, for example, we've got a character walking down the street and something bad's about to happen to them, or they're going to lose something, or they're going to go to somebody's house where there's going to be some conflict. Now the filmmaker might shoot them walking down a back alley, for example, and turn the camera on its side a little bit, and that gives us the feeling that something's not going to be quite right. So those are our list of shots, and there's a PowerPoint that goes along with this video which will show you examples of them. So your task basically is to use your mobile phone and to use it in landscape, not in portrait. So that means put the camera on its side, and to start to practice getting these shot sizes correct. And if you can, and if you can come up with a story where you're using these shot sizes to tell the story, or to use the right shot size for the right part of the story, and that's essentially what all filmmakers are trying to do. What we tend to do is we go from the extreme long shot, and we move into the character's world using the mid shots and the close-ups when something bad's about to happen, and then we move back away. So that means we move from the close-up, then back to the mid shot, then back to the medium long shot, and so on, and then back out, which is where you get in classic Hollywood films the characters walking off into the sunset because everything's resolved and they've had a really successful mission or whatever it might be, and then they walk away into the sunset, and that tends to be again an extreme long shot. So that's your task, where I've got Toby, who's one of our level 2 students, who's going to talk you through some of the processes and thoughts that he was having when he was making one of his films that might just give you a little bit more food for thought when you're thinking about putting these shots together. He's on now.
Hi, I'm Toby, a media student at Craven College, and this is a guide on how to shoot a scene. The first thing you want to do is set up your equipment like a tripod, adjust its height and angle for your shots. Next, set up the scene and add in any props. You should also check the frame and make sure there isn't any equipment in it that will disrupt the realism for the audience. You want to think about the mise en scène, which is basically what you've put in the frame. Why is it there? What's its purpose? Here I used a red painting as a way of portraying the anger in the scene. Use the mise en scène to aid you in telling the story. Another key part of filming is locations. Choose good locations. Pick a location that's going to help tell the narrative of the story visually. Like this bridge scene, for example. The bridge has the ominous connotations connected with it and helps the audience understand the character's mindset. You also want to use your space well and use the location's uniqueness to your advantage. In this scene, I used the caging as a way of showing that the character feels trapped. Find different ways to use locations that are different and interesting. The most fundamental part of filming is your shot. Choose the best shot that serves to tell the story visually rather than having to resort to using dialogue. What does the scene need to portray? Is it an intense, emotional scene that will benefit from lots of close-ups showing the emotion on the characters? Or is there a certain prop that you need to bring extra focus to, in which case an insert close-up would be a good option? Along with choosing the correct shot size, composition is a key aspect of filming. Composition can be used to direct an audience's attention towards a certain aspect of the frame purely by how you compose the shot. The bridge scene is a good example of use of composition. In this scene I used the bridge to make a tunnel which channels the audience's attention towards the character. Composition can have a huge effect on how the audience sees your characters. You're now ready to start filming. Just remember to always focus your camera and go record.
So I hope you enjoyed Toby's walkthrough of his single camera drama that he just made on the level 2 programme, and I hope that gives you a few ideas for the way in which you might compose some of these shots for this little activity. All the best, have a nice summer, see you later.